ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. وقال تعالى: كل نفس ذائقة الموت. وعن حذيفة رضي الله عنه قال: أول فتنة قتل عثمان وآخرها خروج الدجال. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي رب زدني علما. Respected elders and brothers, indeed it's a huge blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He made us human beings, the best of all the creations. Allah could have made us from the animals in the jungles, from the fishes in the oceans, from the birds in the sky. We could not have objected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but without asking, without filing a request, Allah made us in the best of all the forms and shapes. For this we should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another great blessing of Allah, He gave us this kalima, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, in the lap of our mothers, without any sacrifice, without any request. If you think for a moment, there are hundreds of people who die in every minute in different corners of the world. Majority of them die without believing in Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if they die in such a state, this is our understanding that they are doomed forever and forever. Likewise, hundreds of babies are born in every minute in different corners of the world. Majority of them are born in non-Muslim houses. Allah knows best how long they're going to live in this world without the ni'mat of Islam. So Allah gave us this ni'mat. Alhamdulillah, Allah allowed us to be steadfast on this ni'mat. For this we should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should never underestimate this value of Iman, especially the environment we are living in, the time we are living in. It's not because we are living in the Western world, whether you're living in the Western part of the world or whether you're living in the Eastern part of the world. The situation is dire. The situation is very difficult. To save your Iman, to safeguard your Iman, it's not easy. Just a day or 2 days ago, usually brothers go out for Jawla, meet the people, meet the locals in the community, and sometimes, I'm not criticizing anyone, sometimes people have this objection also. We all Muslims, what's the sense of what's the reason or what's the need for the effort of tabligh? People are coming to the masjid. My respected elders and brothers, if people are all coming to the masjid that are there in the locality of Elmont, Valley Stream, Franklin Square, New Hyde Park, our masjids, both the masjids in the community won't be enough. If such is the case, why do we need 2 or 3 jamaats in the time of Eid? So this means not everybody is coming to the masjid. This means the level of Iman, this means the level of deen that is there is very low. Brothers went for Jawla 2-3 days ago, and they met a family right not far away from here in Elmont, and the young man came out, in his 20s, because according to the list we had, it should be a Muslim brother. It was a Muslim name. So he came out and, how are you, how's everything? He said salam. The brother said, I wasn't there, I was informed of this. The brother said salam to him. He replied to his salam. Afterwards, it was found out that his mother is a Muslimah, or was a Muslimah, is a Muslimah, Allah knows best. And the father was Christian. And both of them got married. And the grandfather, meaning the Nana, the grandfather from the maternal side, had this condition at the time of marriage that all my sons and daughters, all my grandsons and granddaughters will be named Muslim, whether they would be Muslim or not. So that's why this young man's name was Mustafa. Then the mother also pulled up. So according to the son, my mother has changed her religion after marrying my father, who is a Christian, and she has also become a Christian. So I go to the church also, and I go to the masjid also. My brothers and sisters go to the church also, and they go to the masjid also. So this just came up in my mind. I didn't intend to mention this, this value, this Iman itself, and being steadfast on Iman. I'm not talking about Puerto Rico, I'm not talking about Brazil, I'm not talking about some place far away in Africa. I'm talking about Elmont, that's within the 10 minutes drive radius. This is the situation. Iman is leaving the community. Iman is leaving, it's draining out of from amongst the Muslims. So this gives us an idea how valuable this Iman in itself is. Being steadfast on Iman, to be born on Iman or to be guided on Iman in a certain part of your life, and to leave this world of Iman is a great ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It also tells us how much effort of deen is needed. So we shouldn't criticize any effort, as long as any effort of deen is going on in any form or shape, as long as it is according to the methodology of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have no right to criticize this effort. So moving forward, another great ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has sent us in the ummah, the nation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the last nation to come on the face of this earth and the first nation to enter Jannah on the Day of Judgment. For this also we should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the topic that was going on was signs of Judgment Day. And we had mentioned in the beginning, maybe none of us will be alive who is sitting here at the time when the Day of Judgment will commence. Nobody can say for sure. But the reason why the ulama tell us this, because it is mentioned in the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Dajjal will come at a time when people have forgotten about Dajjal. From the mimbars, it will never be mentioned that who Dajjal is and what will be the situation in which he'll come and what would be his effect on the population at large. But alhamdulillah, today we talk about Dajjal, we mention about the signs of the Day of Judgment. So this gives us an idea that still some time is remaining. So the purpose of mentioning the signs of the Day of Judgment is to make us realize, to remind us that what is the purpose of our coming in this dunya, and we have to leave this dunya one day. And the most intelligent person is who prepares, according to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who prepares for the hereafter before the hereafter comes, who prepare for the afterlife before the afterlife comes. So the purpose is we can literally say, the purpose is to scare us. The purpose is to develop the fear in us. Otherwise, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have never mentioned these ahadith. To scare us and make us realize that we are going to die and we have to make the preparation for the hereafter. And while living in this dunya, we have to pass through these trials and tribulations. In his time, he used to tell Sahaba radiyallahu anhum that the greatest fitna is the fitna of Dajjal. So moving forward, the last thing we mentioned was the shahadat, the martyrdom of Umar radiyallahu an, a few fada'il virtues of Uthman radiyallahu an, and the prophecies, the signs, the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he mentioned that clearly highlighted that Uthman radiyallahu an will be martyred while he was alive. So I'll repeat a couple of them, the point where we stopped last time, and inshallah then we'll continue. It's a hadith of Mustadrak Hakim, and Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu narrates that I realized and recalled this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when the rebels and the insurgents surrounded Uthman radiyallahu anhu to eventually kill him. I recall this hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting amongst the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, and he said there will be a time of great discord, there will be a time of great ikhtilaf and great disagreement, and something that you have never seen before. Sahaba radiyallahu anhum inquired, what should we do at that time? How should we act? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, hold on to your Amir. Hold on to your Amir and his companions, and he pointed towards Uthman radiyallahu anhu. So the ulama say this was a sign that something huge will happen. Another hadith of Aisha radiyallahu anha, that once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam whispered in the ear of Uthman radiyallahu anhu, and as he kept on whispering, the expressions and the color of the face of Uthman radiyallahu anhu kept on changing. So this was a realization that something important is being mentioned to him. Then when it was the time of his shahada, we asked him, when the rebels were about to surround him or had surrounded him or had all gathered into Madinatul Munawwara, we asked him, the Sahaba asked him, Are you not going to put up a resistance? Are you not going to, in other words, are you not going to call the Muslim army to defend you? Because you are the Khalifa. It's upon your disposal. It's not a regular Muslim army. Now it's far beyond 2.2 million square miles of earth that was at the time of the death of Umar radiallahu anh. It is the most powerful army on the face of the earth at that time. So it's at your disposal. Are you not going to call up the army to defend you? What was the reply of Uthman radiallahu anh? That I had made a promise with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'm going to fulfill that promise. In other words, I'm not going to shed the blood to save my own blood. Moving forward, it is mentioned that he passed away at the age of 82. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a long life. Another narration of Murrah ibn Ka'ab radiallahu anh, that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sitting amongst us. Is there anyone who would need translation in Urdu? Everybody easily understands. If it's needed, I'll quickly do it inshallah in between. Murrah ibn Ka'ab radiallahu anh says that a person passed by and his head was covered. We could not recognize him. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that on the day of the trials, or in the time of the trials, this person will be guided. This person will be towards the right path. He pointed towards the person who was passing, as if somebody wears a hoodie and we cannot recognize him. So such was the situation, and this person will be on the right path. Murrah ibn Ka'ab radiallahu anh said, I stood up to look and check who was this person. It was Uthman radiallahu anh. आखिरी दफ़ा जो हमारी बात हुई थी वो ये बात थी कि उस्मान रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु के कुछ फ़ज़ाइल और वो अलामात जो आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने अपनी ज़िंदगी में फरमा दी थी, जो निशानदही करती थी कि उस्मान रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु की शहादत होगी। आयशा रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हा फरमाती हैं कि आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने एक मजलिस में कुछ बातें आहिस्ता से उस्मान रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु के कान में फरमाई, जिसकी वजह से उनके चेहरे का रंग बदलता रहा, मुतग़य्यर हो गया। हमें अंदाज़ा हुआ कि कोई अहम बात है। फिर जब उनकी शहादत का वक्त करीब आया तो मुसलमानों ने उनसे पूछा कि आप क्या अपनी हिफाजत के लिए इंतज़ाम नहीं करेंगे, मुसलमानों की जो फ़ौज है उसको नहीं बुलाएंगे? तो उस्मान रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु ने जवाब दिया, कमोबेश मफ़हूम है कि मैंने आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम से एक आहद किया है, एक वादा किया है जिसको मैं पूरा करूँगा, यानी अपने खून को बचाने के लिए मुसलमानों का खून मैं नहीं बहाऊँगा। इसी तरीके से जो है एक और रिवायत है कि अबू हुरैरा रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु फरमाते हैं कि आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया कि बहुत ही सख्त वक्त आएगा, बहुत ही ज़बरदस्त हालात आएंगे और इख्तलाफात का वक्त होगा जो आज से पहले तुमने कभी नहीं देखा। तो सहाबा रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हुम ने पूछा कि हम उसके अंदर क्या करें? तो फरमाया कि अपने अमीर को और उसके साथियों को मजबूती से पकड़ो, और इशारा किया उस्मान रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु की तरफ। इसी तरीके से मुर्रा इब्न काब रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु की रिवायत है कि आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम तशरीफ़ फरमा थे, सहाबा भी बैठे हुए थे रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हुम। एक शख्स गुजरे जिनका सर कपड़े से ढका हुआ था, हम पहचान नहीं सकते थे। आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया कि जब फितने का ज़माना आएगा तो ये शख्स सही राह रास्त पर होगा और हिदायत पर होगा। मैं उठ के गया और मैंने देखा तो वो उस्मान रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु थे। Moving forward, Anas radiallahu anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Ya Uthman, you will assume the Khilafah after me. Allah will make you the Khalifa, and the Munafiqeen, the hypocrites, will want to take it away from you. We had mentioned this last time. Another narration that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Allah will give you an upper garment, meaning qameez, which means the Khilafah. And people will try to snatch away this upper garment from you. But don't just give it away voluntarily. In other words, defend it as much as possible. So a similar hadith of Uthman, you will assume the Khilafah after me, and the Munafiqeen will want to take it away from you. But don't let them take it away from you. On that day, you should fast, and your iftar will be by me. So clearly, how clear would be a prophecy or a prediction that they will want to take it away from you. Don't give it up voluntarily. When this extreme situation arises, you should be fasting, and you will do the suhoor in Madinatul Munawwara, in other words, and your iftar will be by me, meaning in the other world. आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की फरमाया, अनस रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु की रिवायत है कि उस्मान, तुम्हें खिलाफत दी जाएगी मेरे बाद, और मुनाफिकीन तुमसे उस खिलाफत को छीनना चाहेंगे, तो जो है उसको इतनी आसानी से मत देना और या उसको जाने नहीं देना, और जिस दिन ये हालात हों उस दिन तुम रोज़ा रखना। और तुम्हारी इफ्तारी जो है वो मेरे साथ होगी। तो गोया कि इशारा फरमाया कि ये ऐसी कैफियत होगी जिसमें उनको मारा जाएगा, शहीद किया जाएगा. The narration that I just mentioned in the beginning is the saying of Huzaifa radiyallahu an, أول الفتن قتل عثمان وآخرها خروج الدجال. That one of the beginning of the trials in the Muslim Ummah, the beginning of the tribulations in the Muslim Ummah will begin from the assassination of Uthman radiyallahu an, and the last of the greatest trials would be the coming out of Dajjal. Now the question arises, the killing, the assassination of Umar radiyallahu an is considered the beginning also, as we mentioned last time, was also a time of chaos. So why does this narration or the saying of Huzaifa radiyallahu anhu wasn't just a regular person? He was the Sahibu Sirri Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the keeper of the secrets of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, knew the name of all the hypocrites of Madinatul Munawwara. We mention it repeatedly that whenever somebody would pass away after the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Umar radiyallahu an would check if Huzaifa is there in the janaza or not. And if Huzaifa wasn't there in the janaza, Umar would back off, would never participate in the janaza, assuming that this is a janaza of a munafiq, otherwise hypocrite. Otherwise Uthman radiyallahu an would have, Huzaifa radiyallahu an would have participated in the janaza. So a person of such a caliber, and he never exposed the name of any munafiq in his life. For example, just to understand, it was Umar radiyallahu an, he said, this is the humility of Umar radiyallahu an, that I do not ask you for the names of the munafiqeen that you have. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave you a list. I just ask you this much, that is my name in that list or not. So he never exposed anything until he passed away. He took the secrets with him in the grave. So this person is saying that awwal fitna, the first fitna, is the qatl, is the assassination of Uthman radiyallahu anhu. So the ulama say it means that the chaos, the door of the chaos that opened at the time of the assassination of Uthman radiyallahu anhu was never closed. The chaos continued. After his, we will inshallah not go in all the details, just take a glance, just mention it over the top, that whatever the situations that led to the martyrdom of Uthman radiyallahu anhu. So the chaos continued. Then it continued in the time of Ali radiyallahu anhu. He was martyred. It continued in the time of Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu. Then it further continued. That's why when the rebels and the insurgents surrounded Madinatul Munawwara, Sahaba radiyallahu anhum tried to calm them down. And they said, look, it would be a turning point in history. If you unshield your swords, this will be a turning point in history. Until now, people are disciplined with the whip. Until now, people are disciplined with the whip. If you open up the sword, this sword will never go back in the niyam. This sword will never go back in the shield, so don't take it out. Eventually, the sword came out, it never went back. Since that time, the blood of the Muslims, this is the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how Allah willed. But anyway, our actions, Allah has given us the choice. So the action leads towards it. So this was the situation at the time of Uthman radiyallahu anhu. Now, before going in the halat, my respected elders and brothers, we should never dwell in the series of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhu was done in this masjid a while ago by Mufti Farhan Sahab. So I won't go in that detail, but just to give an idea of the background. It is usually mentioned when we talk about these topics that we should not try to research and we should not try to come up with the conclusion that who was right and who was wrong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the title of radiyallahu anhum wa radu an, which means Allah is pleased with the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum and Sahaba are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not a regular certificate. This is not a regular declaration. When the people of Jannah will enter into Jannah, the ahadith say that the last reward or the last gift or the last certification that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give to the dwellers of Jannah is that Allah will ask the people of Jannah, do you need anything? They said, oh Allah, we have everything. You have granted us more than our expectations. Is there anything remaining? Then is nothing remaining. There is nothing remaining. So then Allah will say, I am pleased with you, and forever and forever I will never be again annoyed with you. So this will be the ni'mat, the favor that Allah will bestow upon the dwellers of Jannah at the end. And Allah bestowed this favor and certification upon the Sahaba radiallahu anhum in this dunya. So imagine the difference. Imagine the caliber and the honor that Sahaba radiallahu anhum were bestowed upon by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah has mentioned that it is wajib, it is mandatory to talk good about the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And it is mandatory to refrain from mentioning anything evil about the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. I took the name of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. I could have taken any other alim's name or any other scholar of the past name. But the reason I took Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah's name is sometimes people take the Shaykh's name because he was very strict. And one of the strictest person as far as the classification of the ahadith are concerned. So if you go for Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, I mean, scholars might not agree with whatever he said, and there is justification in this also. Scholars have the evidences and have the opinions, but the thing is, those people who follow Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, this is his saying. If you don't follow anything beyond, if you don't follow Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah as far as the narrations or the classifications of the ahadith is concerned, there is no more stricter than him. There's no person beyond him as far as being strict is concerned. So he is saying in his book of Aqidah, this is the topic of Aqidah, so I won't go into details, that you have to be careful when you talk about the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Some people, unfortunately, I'm not criticizing anyone, this is the time of academia, this is the time of academics where we are living, people say we are doing research and where we have to come to a conclusion. Hassan Basri rahmatullah alayhi was asked that what do we say or what do we do when we read these stories of the ikhtilaf of Ali and Muawiyah radiallahu anhuma, or we see about the time of the tribulation of Uthman radiallahu anhu. What was the reply of Hassan al-Basri rahmatullah alayhi? Hassan al-Basri, who was brought up in the lap of Salama radiallahu anha, one of the wives, noble wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, was brought up under the shade of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the Sayyidut Tabi'een, the leaders of the Tabi'een. All the lanes of suluk go from Hassan al-Basri radiallahu rahmatullah alayhi to Ali radiallahu an, and he says that we were not present at that time. What was his reply? We were not present at that time, they were present. So we didn't see these things and witness these things first-handed. We were absent, we came afterwards. We can only rely upon the narrations that we read in the books of hadith and in the books of history. So we have no right to come to a conclusion. We have no right to say, we just do whatever the Quran and the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tell us to do. So in these things, we should never run for the conclusion. As far as history is concerned, we should read history, but don't come to a conclusion. Leave it on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another great person, somebody asked him, what should we do in these situations? He said, you should thank Allah that Allah, these are bloody times. खून में लदा हुआ ये ज़माना था, तुम इस बात पे शुक्र करो कि अल्लाह ने तुम्हारे हाथों को इस खून से पाक रखा. तो जो सामने है बस उसको पढ़ो और अल्लाह के ऊपर उसको छोड़ दो. So these were bloody times, and you should thank Allah that Allah has cleansed and purified your hands from the blood of the Muslims. Just leave it as it is, as far as history is concerned. So whenever we talk about these things, this should be our understanding and this should be in our mind. We should not dwell further because history bears witness, experience bears witness. Whenever a person dwells into this situation, the past tells us that he went on the wrong path. He was led astray. This was among the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. They were the best people on the face of this earth after Rasulullah, after the Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam. Because when we say, when we talk casually about the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and we say, the reason why I'm bringing up this because there are books in English and other languages also, they have these sentences. I won't take the name of any books, I won't point out to any author. The purpose is just to let you know. Some, especially the time where we are living, people say this article is very objective. This author writes in a very objective manner. And sometimes this objectiveness leads to this, that Sahaba were human. They were humans like us. They made mistakes like us. So that's fine. Sure, Sahaba were human like us. But Sahaba were not immune, were not ma'asum from khata, were not immune from mistakes, because the only category or generation that was immune from mistakes were the Prophets ﷺ. Nobody else in the galaxy of the human beings is immune from mistakes. Sahaba were humans, but they are the best humans after the Prophets ﷺ. When we say Sahaba were like us, in other words, we are saying, though not by our tongue, that na'uzubillah, Allah made a mistake. Allah should have chosen maybe me and you or somebody else than the Sahaba radiallahu anhum to be with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. A person who is the greatest human being, for whom this entire world came into existence. Allah chooses the best generation of humans to support him, to be with him, and we are saying that they were like us. Sure, they were like us, but what's the background in your mind when you say that they were like us? Meaning, they also were on the same level of having malice and grudge as I have malice and grudge today. When you write a book, that's why it is said you should not read every book, because whatever the author has in his mind is conveyed in the book. This is something spiritual. And when you read that book, this is conveyed in your mind also. So always refer to the ulama who trust, whether it's English, Arabic, Urdu, whatever language you read. So this is the book, should I read this book? I'm going off the topic, but it is needed for these type of situations. We should really be careful and ask the ulama that this is the book I am reading. Maybe the ulama might know, might not know. Give them some time. Let them really scan through the book, and then they will give you an idea whether you should read this book or not. So, Sahaba radiallahu anhum were all udul, were all upright. We should not come up with these things in our mind that they were like us and they might have malice and grudge and everything, because if we take out these Sahaba radiallahu anhum from in between, the deen will be lost. We got the deen through the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. There is no other second avenue through which we got the deen. So we have to rely upon them, and our hearts and our minds should be clear for anything wrong regarding them. And one last example, then inshallah I'll go on the topic. Those Sahaba radiallahu anhum had ikhtilaf, and those Sahaba radiallahu anhum differed on many legal rulings. I'll just give you two examples. If we say that they were humans like us and they had this malice and grudge and everything against us, just take these two, the books of history are full of it. Just take these two examples, go home and implement these examples on yourself. You will get the reply that whether we are like them or we are far, far, far away from them. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was the governor of Syria. Even at the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu's shahada, he was the governor of Syria. And don't take my example in a fiqhi perspective, in a juristic perspective. I'm giving it in a perspective that how Sahaba were respectful for each other, though they had a high level of ikhtilaf and disagreement. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu came to Madinatul Munawwara on one of his visits. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu was sitting in the masjid. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu prayed his witr salah. It was without the jama'ah. He was in the front, and Abdullah ibn Abbas was observing him from the back. Two of the greatest Sahaba radiallahu anhum, Imam al-Mufassirin, Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, the leader of the Mufassirin, the greatest commentator in the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, one of the four scribes of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, one of the four people who wrote down the revelation. Whenever Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam got the wahi, one of the four people used to write it down. So this was Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. Muawiyah prayed one rakat witr salah. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu was the opinion of 3 rakat witr salah. Now once again, don't get it in a fiqhi perspective. I'm mentioning it from the perspective of, now fiqhi, this is something else. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu commented, what type of salah is this? And then he walked away. But he did not stop Muawiyah radiallahu anhu from praying one rakat witr salah, but he did not agree with that also. Today, if this ikhtilaf is brought up in the masjid, people say, you extremist. You are breaking down the community. We are living in America, brothers. Forget about these ikhtilafat. Don't get me wrong. This is a talk. Forget about these ikhtilafat. We should come on one. The Imam should do like this and everybody should follow. Once again, there is a reply to this. What to do in these situations, this is not the topic today. But the thing is, if this ikhtilaf should not be brought up, why did Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anh commented regarding him? If this ikhtilaf should not be brought up, why did Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anh comment on it? He had his own mazhab. Today the problem is when in Urdu we say mazhab, we take it that this is our Islam. Mazhab does not mean the deen in Arabic. Mazhab, those who understand Arabic, has a very comprehensive meaning. Mazhab comes from dhahaba yadhabu. A person went on this path. किसी का जाना, किसी का एक रास्ते पे चलना, इसका मतलब है मजहब. हमने आज मजहब का लफ्ज़ जो है वो इस्लाम के साथ लगा दिया. अगर से मजहब का मतलब दीन भी होता है तो ये उस शख्स का मजहब है, मतलब ये उसकी राय है. ये असल तर्जुमा है मजहब का. We say this is the mazhab of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, Shafi'i rahimahullah, Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah, or Malik rahimahullah. This means this was the path on which they treaded. This was their opinion. So this was the opinion of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, and he did not leave his mazhab. And this was the mazhab of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, and he did not leave his mazhab. Because both had the evidences from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So if somebody says that this is my mazhab, this is my opinion, doesn't say na'uzu billah that this is deen and whatever you are doing is wrong. So may Allah forgive me, I'm not criticizing anyone, I'm sitting in the masjid, Allah is my witness. We are manipulating the terms today and further dividing the ummah by saying that we should all be on the way. It's not possible. Sahaba radiallahu anhu, as far as fiqh matters were concerned, were not on one opinion. Though they had such a high level of ikhtilaf, but they were the best, they were the most unified nation on the face of this earth. Though they had such a high level of ikhtilaf, but still they were the most unified nation on this earth. Why? This tells us the definition of respect. This tells us the definition of unity. That though there might be ikhtilafat, but you respect each other, though there are differences of opinion. You do not make those differences of opinion a source of your disunity. So today this is me and you. Shaitan has misguided us because we have different opinions, we cannot be one. This is wrong. This is a personal ana, this is a personal ego that we have made a reason. So this is one example. Now, if such ikhtilaf is today, I already alluded towards this, what level of respect do we have for each other? You should go home and think on this, you'll get an idea of where were the Sahaba and where are we today. Such a high level of ikhtilaf between Muawiyah and Ali radiallahu anhu, that the two armies of the two Sahaba radiallahu anhum are fighting with each other. A mas'ala came, and a mas'ala of zina or adultery came to Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, because whoever was the governor of the Amir at that time was the Qazi also of the Supreme Court or the main court of the High Court. So the mas'ala came to Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, he could not solve it. So he said, go to Ali radiallahu anhu and ask the answer for this mas'ala. The ulama say there wasn't a more bloody time in the time, or there wasn't a much bigger trial on the ummah than at the time that there was ikhtilaf between Muawiyah and Ali radiallahu anhuma. So they were not arch enemies, but just to assume that they were enemies and they were fighting each other. In other words, it feels bad to use these words, but just to make us understand, blood was being spilled for each other they were ready to spill the blood of the opposite side for whatever reasons that were there, but still they had so much respect for each other that they said, I don't know this mas'ala, go and ask this person. If I have ikhtilaf, I talk about myself. If I have ikhtilaf for anyone today, forget about the political arena. In the masjid, don't get me wrong again. I'm not specifying or pointing out any masjid. Before I came in this community, alhamdulillah, I knew many masajids. I knew the situation of, since 14 years of age, I'm in this country. So I have been to many places. My family is there. People in my family have been in the committees of many different masajids, alhamdulillah. So I know the whole spectrum. My brother advised me when I became the Imam of the masjid that how the committee works and what you should have in mind. So alhamdulillah, I have all the things in the background. I'm not criticizing anyone. Forget the political arena. In the masajid, the committees are split. And people from one side don't need, I have witnessed it with my eyes. They pass away without giving salam to the person with whom they have ikhtilaf. And we say we are like Sahaba, they were like humans like us. For the sake of Allah, we should seek forgiveness from Allah. Our ikhtilaf makes us stop the conversation in the masjid because I am the president and he is the secretary and I am on such a position and I am on such a position. And they were against each other and blood was being spilled, the most difficult time in the history of Islam. And Muawiyah radiallahu anhu doesn't know a mas'ala and he sends the person to Ali radiallahu anhu. So this gives us an idea that their ikhtilaf was for the sake of ikhtilaf, was not the sake of personality. That why does this person doesn't agree with me? We should learn to respect each other, no matter how many differences of opinion we have. So we cannot say that Sahaba were humans like us. And na'uzubillah, we say, oh, this is a very objective article. This person is a very huge academic, that he has brought up these things from the past and now he's coming to a conclusion. These things will lead us astray. So the last thing for today is coming towards the ahwal, the situations that led towards the martyrdom of Uthman radiallahu anhu. In the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu, we know that he was soft. Whenever something came up, Umar radiallahu anhu was very strict and very strong, difference of personalities, and he would fix that thing right away. He would even pull away the governor from his position and put the governor on being a shepherd. That happened. There was a governor of one of the Muslim provinces and he took him out because of the complaint he had and he made him a shepherd. But nobody could raise his voice against Umar radiallahu anhu because of his personality that Allah had given him. So complaints started coming from the governor's side. Grievances started coming up from the public that this governor is not good. He is not fulfilling the rights of the community. And people started blaming Uthman radiallahu anhu that he has appointed his relatives upon good positions. Not all the governors were his relatives. Some were not. Like Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was from the same tribe of Uthman radiallahu anhu, the Umayyah. So people had this reservation and grievance that he puts his people on the position. People had this grievance that he spends a lot of Baitul Mal money, Islamic treasury money on his own people whom he likes. This was wrong. Uthman radiallahu anhu was a very wealthy person and he spent a lot of money when he was a Khalifa. But this was from his private funds, from his own money. Not everything was taken out from Baitul Mal. If we remember an incident in the last topic of modesty, we had mentioned this, that when Umar radiallahu anhu was the Khalifa, his relative came and he was a really needy person. And he asked for money. Umar radiallahu anhu scolded him. And Sahaba radiallahu anhum were murmuring amongst were discussing amongst each other that why did Umar radiallahu anhu scold him? And he was a needy person. So then Umar radiallahu anhu went afterwards, gave him money from his own pocket, a huge amount. I don't recall the amount at this time. And then he came back to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and he clarified. He said, if I would have given him money in this position, at this place when I was sitting in the court, people would have thought that I have taken out this money from Baitul Mal. Their imagination would have never went to this point that I am giving him the money from my own account. So I didn't want to be raised on the day of judgment from among those badshahs, from among those kings that usurp from the treasury of the Muslims. So Uthman radiallahu anhu was not giving from Baitul Mal, he was giving from his own pocket. But people had these grievances. And who started these grievances in the first place? Abdullah ibn Saba. He was a Jewish person who converted to Islam. Allah knows best he converted or not converted. History says that he converted to Islam. He was in Egypt, and we should keep this thing in mind. Egypt was not a Muslim country. Syria was not a Muslim country. Iraq was not a Muslim country. Iraq was in the Persian Empire. Syria was in the Byzantine Empire. Egypt was on the tip of North Africa. So all these countries and provinces came into the Muslim empire starting in the time of Umar radiallahu anhu. And the conquest of both these empires culminated in the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu. So these were not, people who accepted Islam in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Islam was new in that area. Not every new Muslim went to the madrasa. The brain was not fully washed. They still had those ill-conceived ideas and ideologies of idolism or paganism or fire worshipping from the Persian background or from the Christian background or for the whatever background that was there in Egypt. So Islam wasn't fully developed in the minds of the people. You could easily lead them astray. If you want to misguide a person in Medina, it wasn't easy because he saw the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. He saw Islam growing up. But if you want, that's why if a new Muslim, you want to misguide him, you can misguide him easily. But a person who is back from our countries and is here in this country, you cannot misguide him so easily because he's seen the background. He was brought up on these roots. So it was very easy to misguide them. So Abdullah ibn Sabah came up with this idea that the person most deserving of the Khilafah after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Ali radiallahu anh, because he is his relative also. He was brought up by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also. He is the husband of his most beloved daughter Fatima radiallahu anha also. So he should be the first Khalifa. And he started instilling this thought, this mentality in the minds of the new Muslims. And even today, kullu jadidin ladidun, it says in Arabic, every new thing is tasty. People get attracted towards it, whether it has a root, it has some roots or doesn't have any background. So even if today you come up with something new, you will gather maybe 5-10 people around you, that those will be your supporters. So he started gathering people around him. New Muslims, they didn't know the background. This makes sense and this is logical that he deserves to be the Khalifa, the ruler after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why Abu Bakr, why Umar, why Uthman radiallahu anhum. So when a big number was gathered, it leaked into Iraq also, it leaked into Syria also. And he gathered these people. And at the same time, grievances were coming up. So word came into Madinatul Munawwara that the people are not happy and maybe a rebellion would take place. So Uthman radiallahu anh sent 4 Sahaba radiallahu anhum into 4 different directions. And he said, go and notice and observe and gather the information. Are the governors doing right or wrong towards Syria, towards Iraq, towards Egypt and one more place? And observe and bring me back the information. For 3, I forgot the name at this point, 3 of the Sahaba radiallahu anh returned back with good news. 1 Sahabi did not return back. And this is in Egypt. And he was stopped. In other words, he was contained by these rebellious people, the supporters of Abdullah ibn Sabah. The next year, Hajj was about to come. Uthman radiallahu anh did not hear from that Sahabi who was stopped. So he was also only hearing the good news. There weren't any satellites, there weren't any cell phones or anything. So the only news that would come would be through the people. He decided that let's call all the governors of all the Muslim provinces at the time of Hajj. Everybody came in and he had a meeting at the time of Hajj, and he didn't go for Hajj for himself in Madinatul Munawwara, and he had this meeting and he said, what should we do? How should we deal with this? So all the governors gave their opinions. Some said, give money to the people, these are new Muslims, they would calm down. Some said, no, do this. One of the opinion of Muawiyah radiallahu anh was, as we say today, you should give certain right to the states. The federal government should not go into this domain or into this jurisdiction. So Muawiyah radiallahu anh said, I'm just giving an example to make us understand, I'm not comparing these things. So Muawiyah radiallahu anh said, give the power to the states. Leave this thing on the governors, on the rulers of the provinces. Whatever deems appropriate, however we would see it good, we will deal with it. And then on the way back from Hajj, Medina comes. If you want to go from Makkah to Syria, Medina comes in the way. So he passed through Madinatul Munawwara. He gave a dua and he gave a khutbah. He gathered the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and he said, look, there are these people who are rebels, who are insurgents. And these insurgents had also gathered in Madinatul Munawwara in that year's Hajj. And now when they heard that everything is fine and Uthman radiallahu anh has taken care of the governors, they came up with other grievances. Those that I mentioned, he gives money, he is so and so, and many other made up things. So now they had this reason to take Uthman radiallahu anh off his seat. So Sahaba radiallahu anhum was smelling this, in other words. So he gave the khutbah, he gathered all the major Sahaba radiallahu anhum present in Madinatul Munawwara and he said, something can happen. You should protect Uthman radiallahu anh. you should keep an eye on everything. So no, and he knew the mizaj, the attitude, the nature of Uthman radiallahu anh, that he won't do anything by himself. So you should protect Uthman radiallahu anh. You should keep an eye on him to make sure nothing bad happens. And there are few things. This will take much time. I would like to wrap up the whole thing in one sitting. But there are certain ahadith that need to be mentioned eventually before we come at the time of death, at the time or the point on which Uthman radiallahu anh was assassinated. So for today, inshallah, we'll just wrap up on it, and inshallah I'll just translate the things that I said in English in Urdu, inshallah, and that's it. So jo halat bane jinki wajah se, so those who want to leave, don't understand Urdu, we won't be mentioning anything new, inshallah. I'll just wrap it up. حالات جو بنے جس کی وجہ سے عثمان رضی اللہ عنہ کو شہید کیا گیا، وہ حالات یہ تھے کہ شکایتیں آنا شروع ہوئیں، اور لوگوں نے یہ شکایت، عبداللہ ابن سبا جو یہودی تھا اصل میں، اور تاریخ یہ کہتی ہے کہ اس نے اسلام قبول کیا، مورخین کہتے ہیں اللہ بہتر جانتے ہیں واقعی اسلام قبول کیا تھا اس نے یا نہیں کیا تھا، اس نے اس رائے کو پیدا کیا اور یہ اختراع کیا کہ اصل خلیفہ ہونے کے جو مجاز تھے، جن کو خلافت کا حق تھا، وہ علی رضی اللہ عنہ تھے، کیونکہ آپ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کے داماد بھی ہیں، آپ کی تربیت میں بڑے ہوئے، اور جو ہے آپ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم سے رشتہ داری بھی ہے، تو ان کا حق زیادہ ہے۔ اب ہمیں یہ بات ذہن میں رکھنی چاہیے کہ مصر یہ مسلمان شروع سے نہیں تھا، یہ ملک، سیریا یہ بھی شروع سے مسلمان نہیں تھا، اور عراق یہ بھی مسلمان نہیں تھے۔ عراق جو ہے وہ عیسائیوں کی حکومت میں تھا، اور شام عیسائیوں کی حکومت میں تھا، عراق جو ہے مجوسیوں کی حکومت میں تھا، اور مصری بھی جو ہے وہ مسلمانوں کی حکومت میں نہیں تھے۔ تو نیا دین اس علاقے کے اندر آیا تھا، اور ابھی تک ذہن سب کا صاف نہیں ہوا تھا۔ آج کسی نو مسلم کو آپ اگر غلط بات بتا دیں تو اس کو راہ راست سے ہٹانا بہت آسان ہوتا ہے۔ وہ مسلمان جو اپنے ممالک سے آئے ہیں ان کو راستے سے ہٹانا اتنا آسان نہیں ہوتا، اگرچہ دین میں کتنے کمزور کیوں نہ ہو۔ تو اس لیے ان کا ذہن خراب کرنا بہت آسان تھا۔ ہر مسلمان مدرسے میں تو نہیں جاتا تھا، ہر مسلمان مسلمانوں کی تاریخ تو نہیں پڑھتا تھا، تو اس کی وجہ سے اس نے یہ بات لوگوں سے کہنا شروع کی، اور ایک مجمع تیار ہو گیا۔ عربی کی ایک کہاوت ہے کہ ہر نئی چیز جو ہے وہ لذیذ ہوتی ہے۔ آج بھی اگر کوئی شخص نیا کانسیپٹ لے کے کھڑا ہوتا ہے، 5-10 لوگ اس کے حامی بن جاتے ہیں۔ تو عبداللہ ابن سبا کے حامی جمع ہونا شروع ہوئے۔ پھر لوگوں کو یہ شکایت بھی تھی کہ عثمان رضی اللہ عنہ اپنے خاندان کے لوگوں کو وزیر بناتے ہیں، اپنے خاندان کے لوگوں کو بڑا بناتے ہیں، اور خوب بیت المال سے اپنے لوگوں کو مال دیتے ہیں، حالانکہ حقیقت یہ نہیں تھی۔ وہ غریبوں کی مدد کرتے تھے جب ضرورت ہوتی تھی بیت المال سے، ورنہ اپنے مال سے مدد کرتے تھے، لیکن لوگوں کا یہ الزام تھا کہ وہ بیت المال سے کرتے تھے۔ اور سارے وزیر ان کے رشتہ دار نہیں تھے، بعض تھے جیسے معاویہ رضی اللہ عنہ، بعض نہیں بھی تھے، لیکن ان کا وزیر بنانا یہ ان کے مرتبے کے مطابق ہوتا تھا، چاہے وہ رشتہ دار ہوں کہ نہ ہو، لیکن لوگوں نے اس کو ایز این ایکسکیوز، ایسا بہانہ لے لیا۔ تو یہ بات شروع ہوئی، مدینے تک اس کی اطلاع پہنچی۔ عثمان رضی اللہ عنہ نے 4 صحابہ کو 4 مختلف رخوں کے اندر بھیجا کہ حالات لو اور مجھے آ کے بتاؤ۔ 3 صحابہ رضی اللہ عنہم آ گئے اور اچھے حالات انہوں نے دیے۔ مصر میں جہاں پہ مسئلہ تھا وہاں سے وہ صحابہ رضی اللہ عنہ واپس ہی نہیں آئے، ان لوگوں نے ان کو روک لیا۔ حج کا زمانہ ہوا، عثمان رضی اللہ عنہ کو یہ اطلاع ہی نہیں پہنچی کہ معاملہ ایجپٹ میں، مصر میں کیا ہو رہا ہے۔ اب عثمان رضی اللہ عنہ نے فیصلہ کیا کہ سارے خلفاء کو جمع کیا، سارے وزیروں کو جمع کیا جائے، سارے گورنرز کو، اور میں خود ان سے بات کروں۔ سارے آ گئے تو سب سے رائے دی کہ اس مسئلے کو کیسے حل کیا جائے۔ بعض نے رائے دی کہ بھائی کچھ پیسے دے دو، یہ نئے مسلمان ہیں، ان کی مدد کر دی جائے، یہ ٹھنڈے ہو جائیں گے۔ بعض نے کچھ اور رائے دی۔ معاویہ رضی اللہ عنہ نے یہ رائے دی کہ اس کو آپ ہمارے حوالے کر دیں، ہر صوبے کا گورنر جو بہتر سمجھے گا وہ معاملہ کرے گا اس بات کو دبانے کے لیے۔ اور پھر جو ہے حج کا موسم ختم ہوا، عثمان رضی اللہ عنہ مدینہ منورہ میں تھے، معاویہ رضی اللہ عنہ جب شام جا رہے تھے، راستہ مدینے سے ہی جاتا ہے، مدینے میں رکے، صحابہ رضی اللہ عنہم کو جمع کیا، اور پھر یہ فرمایا کہ مجھے یہ ڈر ہے کہ کوئی حادثہ ہوگا، جو حالات پیدا ہو رہے ہیں اس کی وجہ سے کہیں عثمان رضی اللہ عنہ کو نقصان نہ پہنچے۔ سو آپ سب حضرات کو یہ دوسرے الفاظ میں آنکھیں کھلی رکھنی چاہیے اور عثمان رضی اللہ عنہ کی حفاظت کرنی چاہیے۔ آخری چیز، ان دا نیکسٹ کپل آف منٹس، 2-3 منٹ کے اندر، جب بھی صحابہ رضی اللہ عنہم کے یہ واقعات کو ہم پڑھتے ہیں یا سنتے ہیں، یا آج کل کی بعض کتابوں میں یہ بات ہوتی ہے ریسرچ کے بہانے سے کہ بھائی اس کا نتیجہ کیا ہے، کون حق پہ تھا، حسن بصری رحمۃ اللہ علیہ جو صحابہ کی گود میں پلے بڑے رحمۃ اللہ علیہ، ان سے پوچھا گیا کہ جب ان حالات کو ہم پڑھیں اور سنیں تو ہمارا کیا موقف ہونا چاہیے، تو انہوں نے فرمایا کہ یہ لوگ اس وقت میں حاضر تھے، یہ چیزیں ان کے سامنے ہوئیں، میں اور تم اس وقت کے اندر غائب تھے، ایبسنٹ تھے، تو ہمیں کوئی حق نہیں ہے فیصلہ کرنے کا، اللہ کے اوپر ان چیزوں کو چھوڑ دو۔ دوسرے کسی بڑے شخص سے یہ پوچھا گیا کہ ہم کیا کریں، تو انہوں نے کہا کہ یہ حالات، یہ اوقات خون میں ڈوبے ہوئے ہیں، ہمیں اس پہ شکر ادا کرنا چاہیے کہ اللہ نے ہمارے ہاتھوں کو ان خون سے پاک رکھا، اسی پہ ہم اکتفا کریں۔ تو ہمیں کسی نتیجے پہ پہنچنے کی ضرورت نہیں ہے، ہمیں حق ہی نہیں ہے کسی نتیجے پر پہنچنے کا۔ اور یہ جو آج کل کتابوں میں لکھا جاتا ہے کہ صحابہ ہماری طرح جو ہے وہ انسان تھے، اس میں کوئی شک نہیں ہے کہ وہ انسان تھے، لیکن وہ بہت ہی اعلیٰ درجے کے انسان تھے۔ اگر وہ اعلیٰ درجے کے نہ ہوتے تو اللہ پاک ان کو آپ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کی صحبت کے لیے نہیں چنتے۔ صحابی کا لفظ صحبت سے نکلا ہے، اور وہ شخص جس ذات کے لیے پورے کائنات کے نظام کو بنایا گیا، اس کے لیے کہ اللہ پاک کسی عام سے چلتے پھرتے آدمی کو یا جماعت کو چن لیں گی اس کی مصاحبت کے لیے، علماء فرماتے ہیں کہ اس پوری انسانیت میں انبیاء علیہم الصلاۃ والسلام کے بعد جو سب سے بہترین طبقہ ہے نیکی کے اعتبار سے، عدالت کے اعتبار سے، سچائی کے اعتبار سے، وہ صحابہ رضی اللہ عنہم ہیں۔ اسی لیے ان کو آپ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کی رفاقت کے لیے چنا گیا۔ وہ نعمت جو جنت میں جنتیوں کو سب سے آخر میں ملے گی، اللہ پاک نے وہ نعمت صحابہ رضی اللہ عنہم کو سب سے پہلے دے دی۔ وہ کیا نعمت ہے کہ اللہ پاک ان سے راضی ہیں، رضی اللہ عنہم ورضوا عنہ، اور وہ اللہ پاک سے راضی ہیں۔ تو وہ لوگ جن کو یہ پروانہ دیا گیا وہ انسان تو ہیں، لیکن ہماری طرح انسان نہیں ہے، اخلاق کے اندر، عادات کے اندر، سچائی کے اندر وہ ہم سے کئی درجے آگے ہیں۔ دو مثالیں میں نے دی تھیں، اس پہ ختم کرتا ہوں۔ ہم یہ غور کر سکتے ہیں میں اور آپ گھر پہ جا کے کہ ہمیں ہمارے لیے یہ کہنا مناسب ہے کہ صحابہ ہماری طرح انسان تھے۔ معاویہ رضی اللہ عنہ مدینہ منورہ آئے اور سیریا کے شام کے گورنر تھے۔ عشاء کا وقت تھا، رات تھی، وتر کی نماز پڑھی 1 رکعت، اور عبداللہ ابن عباس رضی اللہ عنہ بیٹھے ہوئے تھے، وہ 3 رکعت وتر کے قائل تھے، وہ 1 رکعت کے قائل نہیں تھے۔ اب میں فقہی مسئلہ نہیں ذکر کر رہا، میں ایک دوسرے کا ادب ذکر کر رہا ہوں۔ تو انہوں نے وتر پڑھی، 1 رکعت پڑھی، اور پیچھے عبداللہ ابن عباس رضی اللہ عنہ بیٹھے ہوئے تھے۔ جب انہوں نے دیکھا کہ 1 رکعت کے بعد یہ سلام پھیر رہے ہیں تو فرمایا کہ یہ کون سی نماز ہے، کیونکہ عبداللہ ابن عباس رضی اللہ عنہ کی رائے تھی کہ 1 رکعت کی نماز ہو ہی نہیں سکتی، جس رائے کو ابو حنیفہ رحمہ اللہ نے لیا ہے۔ اسی لیے حنفی مسلک کے اندر 1 رکعت وتر جو ہے وہ وتر نہیں ہوتے۔ اب اس کی پوری جسٹیفیکیشن ہے، پورے دلائل ہیں اس کے۔ جو حضرات کہتے ہیں کہ 1 رکعت وتر ہے، ان کے اپنے دلائل ہیں، ہمیں کسی کو برا بھلا نعوذ باللہ نہیں کہنا، دونوں طرف کی احادیث موجود ہیں۔ تو عبداللہ ابن عباس رضی اللہ عنہ نے یہ کہا کہ یہ کون سی نماز ہے، لیکن معاویہ رضی اللہ عنہ کو یہ نہیں کہا کہ تم یہ غلط پڑھ رہے ہو، چھوڑ دو اس کو، یہ کہہ کے وہ اٹھ کے چلے گئے۔ وہ 3 پہ قائم رہے، معاویہ رضی اللہ عنہ 1 پہ قائم رہے۔ میں مثال دے رہا ہوں، مثال ہائپوتھیٹیکلی اسپیکنگ۔ اگر آج یہ مسئلہ کسی مسجد میں اٹھتا ہے تو لوگ اس کو حل کرنے کے لیے بیٹھ جاتے ہیں کہ نہیں یہ غلط ہے، یہ صحیح ہے۔ صحابہ کے زمانے سے ایسے ہی چل رہا ہے، مجھے اور آپ کو کیا حق ہے یہ فیصلہ کرنے کا کہ یہ غلط ہے، یہ صحیح ہے؟ نہیں، امت میں اتفاق پیدا کرو۔ کہ صحابہ میں اتفاق نہیں تھا؟ یہ مسئلہ میرا اور آپ کا ہے کہ ہم نے اپنی انا کا مسئلہ اس کو بنا لیا ہے کہ یہ 4 مذاہب ہیں، جب تک اتفاق نہیں ہوگا، جب تک ایک مذہب پہ جمع نہ ہو جائے۔ صحابہ نے تو اس کو اتفاق کی بنیاد نہیں بنائی، جس سے پتہ چلا کہ یہ میرا اور آپ کا مسئلہ ہے، یہ اختلاف اس کی وجہ سے نہیں ہوتا۔ دوسری مثال، جنگ صفین، جنگ جمل، علی رضی اللہ عنہ اور اس معاویہ رضی اللہ عنہ کے درمیان اختلاف، جس کی وجہ سے صحابہ رضی اللہ عنہم کا خون ٹپکا، گرا، کئی صحابہ رضی اللہ عنہ اور مسلمان شہید ہوئے۔ اختلاف میں ہم نہیں جا رہے، اس سے زیادہ خطرناک اختلاف امت نے آج تک نہیں دیکھا، اس سے زیادہ سخت وقت امت نے آج تک نہیں دیکھا۔ اس وقت کے مقابلے میں جو لڑائیاں ہو رہی تھیں، جو اختلاف تھا علی اور معاویہ رضی اللہ عنہما کے درمیان، لیکن ایک دوسرے کے لیے عزت کتنی تھی۔ ایک مسئلہ زنا کا معاویہ رضی اللہ عنہ کی خدمت میں آیا، انہوں نے فرمایا کہ میں اس کو حل نہیں کر سکتا، جا کے علی رضی اللہ عنہ سے پوچھو۔ ابو موسیٰ اشعری رضی اللہ عنہ جو علی رضی اللہ عنہ کی فوج میں لڑتے تھے، ان کو خط لکھا کہ اس مسئلے کو حل کرو، میں اس کا جواب نہیں جانتا۔ اب میں مثال دے رہا ہوں، نعوذ باللہ میں کسی کی طرف اشارہ نہیں کر رہا، کیونکہ بہت جو چھوٹا موٹا ٹوٹا پھوٹا تجربہ ہے، جو مسجد کے مختلف مساجد کے امریکہ میں حالات دیکھے، ایک مثال دے رہا ہوں سمجھانے کے لیے، تاکہ ہم یہ نہ کہیں اور جب ہم یہ پڑھیں تو ہمارا دماغ خراب نہ ہو کہ صحابہ ہماری طرح انسان تھے۔ آج سیاست کو ہم بھول جائیں، آج مسجد میں کمیٹی کے اندر اختلاف ہو جائے اور اس اختلاف کی وجہ سے معاملے کی شدت اس حد تک چلی جائے کہ کسی وجہ سے ہمارا ذہن نہیں مل رہا، لیکن ہم سلام تو کر سکتے ہیں، ہم سلام کا جواب تو دے سکتے ہیں۔ ہمیں اس شخص سے اتنی نفرت ہے، اس کے چہرے کی طرف نہیں دیکھنا، مت دیکھیں ہم، لیکن کسی کے سلام کا 3 دن تک جواب نہیں دینا، جیسے پہلے عرض کیا تھا پچھلے بیان کی سیریز میں، حدیث میں آتا ہے جو شخص کسی مسلمان سے 3 دن تک اپنے دنیاوی مسئلے کے لیے اپنے رشتے کو توڑتا ہے، اللہ پاک اس کے نیک اعمال کو بھی قبول نہیں فرماتے۔ تو میں بھی اپنے اندر یہ دیکھوں، سب سے پہلے میں اپنے لیے عرض کر رہا ہوں، ہم سب اپنے اندر اس بات کو دیکھیں۔ اب مساجد میں اختلاف ہے اور ایک ساتھی جو ایک عہدے پہ ہے اور دوسرا ساتھی جو دوسری جماعت کا حصہ ہے، وہ ایک دوسرے کی شکل دیکھنا پسند نہیں کرتے کیونکہ اختلاف ہے، اور ہم یہ کہتے ہیں صحابہ ہماری طرح تھے۔ اتنے زبردست اختلاف کے باوجود یہ کہا جا رہا ہے کہ مجھے اس مسئلے کا علم نہیں ہے، دوسرے الفاظ میں نعوذ باللہ ثم نعوذ باللہ، میرے دشمن سے جا کے پوچھو، یہی کہا جا رہا ہے نا دوسرے الفاظ میں کہ میرے دشمن سے جا کے پوچھو۔ اتنی عزت تھی اس درجے کے اختلاف کے باوجود، جس سے بڑے اختلاف کی مثال تاریخ میں نہیں دی جا سکتی اسلام کے۔ تو جس سے پتہ چلا کہ صحابہ میری آپ کی طرح انسان نہیں تھے، ظاہری طور پہ ضرور میری آپ کی طرح تھے، لیکن ان کا اخلاق، ان کے دل کی صفائی، ان کی مروت، ان کے دل میں دوسروں کی عزت ہم سے کہیں درجے زیادہ تھی، جس درجے پہ ہم پہنچ بھی نہیں سکتے۔ تو جبھی بھی اس قسم کے مسائل ہوں، چاہے بیان کی صورت میں ہو، چاہے ہم کتابیں پڑھیں، ہمیں کسی نتیجے پہ نہیں پہنچنا، ہمیں تاریخ کو تاریخ کے نظریے سے پڑھنا ہے اور سننا ہے، اور اس سے ہمارے لیے کیا سبق نکلتا ہے اس کو سمجھنا ہے۔ جو کچھ کہا گیا سنا گیا، اللہ پاک مجھے اور آپ کو اس کی سمجھ نصیب فرمائے۔ سبحان اللہ و بحمدہ، سبحانک اللہم و بحمدک، نشہد ان لا الہ الا انت، نستغفرک و نتوب الیک۔